Welcome to Winning Every Living Day. I'm Orally Cormier, and together with Dr. Pat, we will help you to envision the life of your dreams. This is the space where women like you are inspired to believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and your ability to create a life you truly love. Together, we'll explore health and wellness, relationships, careers, and the small but powerful baby steps that lead to lasting transformation. Because no matter where you start, life is meant for joy, happiness, and abundance. Whether in vibrant health, loving connections, fulfilling work, or freedom of time and money. Here you'll learn to reflect, visualize, feel, and take action so you can manifest the life you deserve. Let's step into your power and start winning every living day together.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat. I get to share this journey with the most incredible Orly, which you just heard do that wonderful introduction. Today's episode is more important than you can imagine. It has come up now for me in the past, I'd say starting 2026, but I got a tad of it even before that. And then this is the conversation Orly is going to guide us through. What does the face of resilience look like to you? And that is an important question for this episode because we're all different. You know, Orly, when I was homeless, resilience for me was at the time, don't get beat up, right? Find food. And, as you go through life, you make mid-course adjustments. But without resilience, I'm not sure we make it in this lifetime. Take us through this episode and how resilience relates to winning every living day. And thank you for the topic.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. I thought this would be a good week to talk about resilience because now that we're in the fire horse energy, we know that this next year is going to create a lot of challenges for us. And never in my wildest dreams did I ever think we were going to have this degree of challenges in our life, in terms of the broader US picture. That is going to be in addition to our individual life challenges. But one of the things when I thought about, well, what is resiliency and what does that look like? I am very involved with Save the Children. I have been for many years. It's an organization that's a nonprofit. It helps in war zones, conflict zones, areas where they may be significant weather events, earthquakes. Even here in the United States, there's communities that have significant challenges because of the lack of resources and the degree of poverty in those areas. And Save the Children comes in and tries to help those kids to feel that they're supported and nourished in the process. And so I got their newsletter this week. And on the front of the newsletter is this little boy who you can probably see. They gave him the name Ahmed, although that's not his real name, but this is his real picture. And I love his smile. He's got a beautiful smile and he's got his favorite soccer ball in his hands. And this, when I read his story, it was very emotional to me to think that this little boy had been through so much. And it turned out on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas attacked a community of Jewish people who were celebrating, Israel responded by attacking Gaza. Now, there's a lot of very regular people who live in Gaza. They have no affiliation with Hamas, a terrorist group, in any way, shape, or form. But, this little boy, Ahmed, and his family were in the area which was being bombed, and their house was destroyed. His two parents were killed. Two of his siblings were killed. He had shrapnel in his body, so he was taken to the hospital. They actually, helped him, recover from his wounds. but he had a lot of trauma. And then when it was time for him to be discharged, they had to figure out where was this little boy going to go. And they found out that he had an uncle and an aunt who lived in Cairo, Egypt. So the arrangements were made to go to his uncle and aunt's house where he has lived ever since. And I'm guessing that 2.5 years later, he's now 13 and a half. And he's in a very supportive community, surrounded by caring and love with his uncle and aunt, but he also gets to experience all the positive safe spaces they have with Save the Children, where he gets an education, he gets to be around other kids his age, he gets to play and have fun. And, so he gets to do the things which are helping him to heal and to recover from this trauma. And what I loved the most about his story is that his dream is to become an architect and go back to Gaza someday and help to rebuild Gaza as he remembers it. And there's a picture that he has of his mom and dad. And he talks about how he wishes that his mom and dad could be with him now to, see all the fun things that he gets to do. And I just love his story. I think it is the most wonderful example of resiliency and a good role model to all of us that, healing is possible, but it requires it requires the right action steps, right? It requires the right mindset, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And so when I'm talking about resiliency, I just want us to be on the same page. So what resiliency is all about is the ability to adapt and recover from challenges, traumas, stress, and significant changes that happen in our life. And I think knowing what we've already been through here in 2026, we've got another 10 months to go through this year. So there's a lot more challenges to come. And so I thought this would be a good time to really talk about it and figure out what steps we can take to help get through these year of challenges.
I want to break it down even further, if you don't mind, because
Sure.
we're talking about a lot of different things. I got an email from one of our fans, listeners, I believe it was this morning, and they live in Minnesota. I think it's Minnesota. Please, somebody fact check me.
Challenges.
Talk about fact check me. And they were saying, and this is somebody that has fought their way to live and survive. And recovery addiction. And they found out this morning they will not get Medicaid because this particular state has now been cut off from Medicaid. And but the email was more about, it was like a poem. It was you can take my money, you can take my health care, you can take, and it was a beautiful, I don't have it in front of me. I didn't really plan to talk about it until you just said what you said. But as we weave to the last point, the last line was, you can have it all, but I will never give you my dignity.
Right.
That's resilience.
That's resilience.
Right.
Absolutely. Because I've seen some of those, news broadcasts about what's been happening in Minnesota. It is heartbreaking and hard to even believe this is our country. But, that's a great example of stresses and life challenges that are beyond what anybody should have to go through. And how do we get through those life challenges, whether it's, someone gets sick, we are having a hard time getting pregnant, we, get divorced, or have a situation like in Minneapolis where people are being rounded up in schools and daycares, being, thrown to the ground, shot 9 times in the back. I mean, those are, or to witness any of that, those are traumatic events. And to overcome that, it starts with, first of all, after you've been through those challenges and traumas, giving yourself the space and time to actually process that. And because initially people are going to be in shock. And that may be for a couple of hours, it may be for a couple of days, it may be for a week. And when people are in shock, their brains cannot think, they can't process information, their body shuts down, they don't feel hungry, they don't want, they just, for some people, they just need to be quiet and they don't want to have any contact with anyone else. For other people, they need to talk about it. So we to meet them where they're at and give them that time and that attention and patience and compassion to help them through this trauma and whatever time it takes. And then when they are ready to talk, to be able to just listen, to hear what they're going through, what they've just been through, what they're processing, with kindness and compassion, not trying to give them, telling them how to think, but just letting them be an open ear for them, to help them to feel heard and understood, and allow them the time and the patience to process some of this information. And then another thing that can be very helpful is those 5 pillars of wellness that I've talked about before. And by being compassionate and being patient and being kind and being a good listening ear, we are providing them with a supportive environment, or maybe a positive community to help them to get through this experience and to heal from it. The other thing is that, sometimes in the process of healing, we at some point we need to move forward. That we can talk about it for a while, but then we need to figure out, well, how are we going to overcome some of this grief so that we can move forward in our life and we don't get stuck in the trauma and the negativity of what we've just experienced.
Yeah.
And I know for myself, when I was in my 20s, I was, there was this feeling of victimhood, like, oh my God, like what I went through, nobody should have to go through. And so I was just making my life hard. I was making it difficult. And at one point, I finally, after I'd been through a couple of hard experiences, overnight, I changed my mindset and I said, okay, been there, done that. This has got to stop. And I immediately decided I wanted positive things in my life. I was meant to be happy, and I didn't need to make my life so difficult. And once I did, I was able to move forward. But it was because I needed the time and the space to work through whatever I needed to work through. And so I want you to keep that in mind, is you're going to get, everyone will deal with it in their own time and space. Some people, they can overcome it really quickly. Other people are going to take longer. But if you can think to yourself, at some point, you want to be moving forward. You don't want to get stuck in the grief over time.
Yeah. But don't you think too, we have taken certain language that helps us with this. And my mom used to walk around all the time with us girls and say, honey, girls, what don't kill you, make you stronger. And we heard it over and over again, and we thought it was biblical. And yes, there is a reference in the Bible by Matthew or somebody, but it was Nietzsche. It was later on when I got smarter and I went to school, I looked it up. And my teacher was quick to tell me, you don't have that right. Now, look, we can give Kelly Clarkson a lot of credit for that great song, but it was Nietzsche in Twilight of the Idols, 1888, that said, what does not kill me makes me stronger. See, this is at the core of resilience, isn't it?
Yes, it is. When we see, and this is something that we need to all keep in our minds over this next year, all of these challenges we're going to face, if we can turn them around to be our opportunity for growth, that's what's going to lead us forward and help us to overcome all of these challenges. Because I know even in my work with many patients with breast cancer or any type of cancer over the years, many of them said to me, that cancer was the best thing that ever happened to them. And I watched what they went through, and some of it was heartbreaking. And I thought, how can they say that? But what they said to me is it helped them to reprioritize their life and what was really important. It was a wake up call. And no longer were they going to do things that didn't matter anymore. They were going to make their health and their relationships with their family and their friends a priority in their life. And the person that cut them off on the highway, let it go. It wasn't worth it. The person who, swore at them, let it go. Didn't really matter, because you know what? That was then and this is now. And focusing on a positive mindset really helped. But the other things that can help when we're talking about those 5 pillars of wellness is good nutrition. That when we eat really good, healthy food, we're nourishing our body. We're giving it the best chance to heal and recover from things that we need to recover from physically. And then when we're eating healthy oils and fats, we're helping our brains to recover, because our brain is actually made up of fat cells. There's fat that makes up the neurons in our brain. So when we're feeding ourselves with good, healthy avocados and olive oil and fats, we're actually helping our brains to recover too. And a lot of that emotional energy that is controlled in our brain. The other thing is to stress management. When we build in some of those stress management techniques like mindfulness meditation, yoga, qigong, tai chi, or prayer, we are helping to modulate the stress that we've been through, whether it's on a daily basis, like many of us are going to go through over the next year with all of the challenges in our world. And I know when I do my qigong in the mornings, wow, that just modulates my stress in my body and gets me going in the right direction. So I'm not starting my day stressed. And then, and by keeping these practices on an ongoing basis, sometimes all it takes is 5 minutes and you feel better already. It actually modulates that stress. Or when you exercise and you're discharging that stress through the exercise that you're getting, that can be incredibly helpful too. The other thing that can be a help during this time is getting enough sleep. And because when we're sleeping, we are repairing the brain. It's being rejuvenated and helps us to recover from the things that are happening during the day. So what's enough sleep? Well, for toddlers, it's 9 to 16 hours over a 24-hour period. That may include a couple naps during the day. For younger kids, that's 7 to 12 hours a day. For teens, 7 to 11 hours. For adults, that's 7 to 9 hours a day. And for older adults, that may be 5 to 9 hours a day. That would include a nap or two during the day to help our brain to recover and to rejuvenate our energy. And then the last pillar of wellness is spirituality. What's our purpose in our life? Because it's our purpose that's going to lead us forward. What are the things that light us up and get us ignited and make us energized and looking forward to the start of every day when we have a purpose that we get excited about? And so that can be enormously helpful. Because a lot of times when people go through trauma, especially, not necessarily just the, regular challenges, but trauma, they may wind up with panic attacks, anxiety attacks, post-traumatic stress disorder. Those are not easy to overcome, but we can help the brain to heal from those severe traumas like Ahmed has been going through by doing some of these stress management practices like mindfulness meditation or qigong, because what it's doing is rewiring the brain and helping to calm down our sympathetic nervous system or to diminish the amount of cortisol that our adrenal glands express
Mm-hmm.
when we feel that we're stressed all the time. And so it's a matter of believing in ourselves that, because a lot of times when people have post-traumatic stress, they feel like they're out of control. Their body will start taking over, shaking. They can't move, they can't think, or they're, very, very shaky. And when the body feels like it's out of control, you're like, oh my God, you just don't know when it's going to happen. And then when
Yeah.
it does, you just feel so embarrassed by the whole situation. But it's a matter of believing in yourself. It's not going to resolve overnight. Like if you have strep throat and you take a antibiotic and in 3 days you feel better, in 7 days you're back to normal again. When you have a traumatic event, it's going to take probably about 5 to 7 years for you to recover from that traumatic
Mm-hmm.
event, because it takes that amount of time for the brain to rewire itself and to heal.
Yeah, I want to throw one other thing in, and maybe this
Sure.
is a show we can think about doing. There's a psychological dynamic that goes on with somebody that's down and out in LA. That was a
Yep.
movie or something. I'm not saying LA people, but you can be, I was down and out, okay, in the Bronx. But
Yep.
what I'm trying to say is here's the thing we're not doing, and this is seriously important,
Mm-hmm.
especially when family members and spouses and partners, whoever they are, corral you.
Yep.
Outside of everything you've said, the one thing that we cut out is doing something we love. And we now have studies about people that live in the centers of cities that have
Yep.
basketball courts outside that they can
Yep.
play in. See, that's something they love. So we don't talk about this resilience part, right? We don't talk about the fact that you see people like Einstein or Jung who would
Mm-hmm.
sculpt.
Yep.
So let's just mention here that outside of everything you've said, don't stop doing the thing you love. I'm not
Right.
saying for you to do it and avoid your responsibility, but please, you've got to include something outside of the dilemma you're in that makes you feel good. What
Exactly.
do you think about that?
Oh, that's a wonderful idea, because Einstein, when he would come across a really difficult problem and he couldn't figure it out, he would stop and he would get out his violin, because he loved playing his violin, and he would play for a
Yep.
while. And after playing for a while, what he reported is that it helped him to think about what the solution to the problem was. And when they looked at his brain after he had died, he had donated his brain. The area in the back of his brain that normally we have 3 lobes, he had 4 lobes, which is amazing. So, yeah, we need to keep in mind that in order to move ourselves forward, it's important to think about what we would love, because when we do what we love, what lights us up, that is going to bring us forward away from the feeling of grief and stress. And even if it's for 5 minutes a day, or maybe as we continue to do it, half of the day is really happy and fun, because as we've talked about before, our life is meant to be happy and joyful and fun. And so if we can focus on, once we get through a certain part of recovery and healing, focus in on a positive mindset. And what are those action steps that we would love that are going to lead us forward? Focusing on hope and having that growth mindset that's going to lead us forward and get us out of these challenging circumstances. Because, all of life, we're going to have challenges, but if we can, take those challenges, see it as growth, and have that positive mindset, step into who we be in this life. And this is the perfect year, because of that fire energy and the intensity of the energy around us. This is the best time. When we have something we would love to do, go for it, because you're going to have a lot of positive energy around you when you're focusing in on what you would love and what you would the opportunities that you have to do what you would love to do in this life, to step into being your best self, your authentic self. And as women, taking back our power and our agency over our own life. And in that, encased in that background, what I want to share with you is, for any of you who have been thinking about what you would love, I have a workshop coming up the middle of March 18th and 19th, called Envisioning the Life You Would Love. I've done it several times. We have a lot of fun. People come away feeling like they've decided what their action steps are going to be, what their intention is for the year. Because a lot of times, in order to do these things, it doesn't take a week, it doesn't take a month, it may take a whole year. But when you set your intention at the beginning of the year, like we are in now, next year, when you look back on your life, you're going to say, wow, I actually was able to do some of the things I said I was going to do. And by, come to my workshop. If you go to my website, orallycormier.com, as you can see on the name on my screen here, don't put the Catherine in, but orallycormier.com. Go to the top of the menu to the workshops, click on that. You'll see the 2 workshops I'm giving. At the bottom is the one on envisioning the life you love. It's a 2-day free masterclass, Wednesday and Thursday, March 18th and 19th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, which is 4 to 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. And those 2, classes, you will come away and you'll feel like you know where you're going in your life. And the other thing is, for couples that are thinking about getting pregnant within the next 2 years, I have a workshop. It's a 6-week workshop, Creating Optimal Resilience in Pregnancy. But this is really to prepare you for pregnancy. So you're building in those good health habits to keep yourself healthy and strong in the long term. Even if you have a gene for cancer, it doesn't mean you're going to get cancer. And if you can keep your body in a good space, having those good health habits, there are people with a gene for cancer that never get cancer because they are doing the things that help to keep their body healthy and strong for the long term. But the best part is if you can build in those good health practices before you get pregnant, you're going to give your baby the best chance of living a longer, healthier life. And that is just a real gift that you would give your children, but also for yourself, because raising your children, I know for myself, they were the sweetest, best years of my life. I loved it. It was so much fun.
Wow.
And
well, look, thank you very, very much for all of this. And part of what we're talking about is everything you do, all the workshops. The bottom line with all of that is as follows. It all points to building the tools, especially prior to pregnancy, for resilience.
You've been listening to the Winning Every Living Day with Lee Cormier with Dr. Pat. I'm so glad you joined us on this journey of believing in yourself and taking the steps toward a life you truly love. Be sure to tune in every first Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Talk Radio for more inspiration, tools, and strategies to support your health, your relationships, and your dreams. And if you're ready for deeper transformation, sign up for my master classes and workshops by visiting my website, orallycormier.com. These powerful programs provide the extra support and guidance that can make an enormous impact in helping you achieve the life you've been dreaming of. Until next time, remember, you have what it takes to start winning every living day.